Welcome to the Alliance series of webinars on fundraising for road safety NGOs. Fundraising is the number one challenge for many of our members, particularly those in low-income countries. This series of webinars draws on the experiences of Alliance member NGOs and our staff. We draw on their successes, their failures, and what they have learned from different approaches to fundraising. The aim of this webinar series is to build the capacity of road safety NGOs to look at fundraising strategically and in new and creative ways. In this webinar, Valeria Motta, Partnerships Manager at the Alliance, will talk about how to use power mapping to identify and approach potential funders, and she'll also give tips for making most of your networking opportunities. Over to you, Vale.
Welcome to the Global Alliance Fundraising Webinar Series. My name is Valeria Motta and I'm the Alliance Partnerships Advisor. Today, we're going to talk about power mapping and networking, two very powerful tools that you can use when you're fundraising for your organization. So this is the agenda that we're going to share with you. First, we're going to go through the power mapping concept. Then we're going to talk about how you build up your leads. Thirdly, we're going to talk about the pipeline and how you can use this tool to track and follow up with the opportunities that you're opening. In the second part of the webinar, we're going to go through the networking concept, how you have to network in events, and finally, I'm going to share with you some do's and don'ts when you're going to a networking event. So, before we start, I wanted to share with you this slide that shows target number 17 of the Sustainable Development Goals. This target talks about the partnership for the goals. And why are partnerships so important when we're doing fundraising and by that networking and power mapping? Because partnerships allow us, first of all, to create new income streams. Secondly, we're not duplicating efforts. And finally, when we meet someone that is aligned with our objectives, we're going to be able to better advocate for our cause. So have in mind when you're doing networking and power mapping, the concept of partnerships and that mindset that we are looking for a win-win approach, somewhere when both parties can benefit from each other. So now let's talk about power mapping and the concept. What is power mapping? Power mapping is usually a very strong tool that is used for advocacy. When you put the decision maker in the middle and all around you think of the different actors that you know that can take you to that decision maker. So as you can see here, we're going to have our friends, our board of directors, some donors, advisory board, the academia, other partners that we have already. And why do we use the power mapping for fundraising as well? Because many times when we are targeting one specific company or we want to get in touch with one specific decision maker, we have to use our resources. We have to use the network that we have already created. And power mapping is a very good exercise to be aware and exactly know and start building that roadmap to get to that decision maker that at the end it will allow us to bring new resources for our organization. Yeah? Okay, so once that we have done that exercise, we have thought of our decision maker and all the people around them, we are going to think of the who is who. And why is this so important? Because we need to know what role that person plays in the company. Either that person is the one introducing us or is the one that we think is going to navigate our proposal. The who is very important, allow us not to waste time, and also it's a great exercise to align our expectations and know what to expect from the different people that we're treating with. When you're doing the who is who, I usually use this matrix that you can see here that allows me to kind of organize my ideas and understand who are these that people with high importance for me and high or low influence within the company or that donor that we're trying to reach. And why it's important to think about this? Because maybe we meet someone who is super nice and very empathetic with our cause, and because of that, they end up being of high importance for us. But if that person has a low influence within the company or the private foundation or whoever is going to give us the funds, then it's not the right person that we have to approach. So have in mind, try to focus on those who are high importance for the cause and also high influence, and be very aware of those who are of high importance for you but low influence within the company. Because sometimes we can end up wasting our time and wasting resources with people that unfortunately, even though they're very, very nice, they're not going to bring us to our objective. So once that we have gone through our network, do the power mapping, the who is who, and we have done the matrix, we start building the pipeline. And what is the pipeline? It's a follow-up tool that's very commonly used in business, where you have the contacts and the leads that you're opening. So it's an Excel spreadsheet where you have to add the name of the person, their email, what's the position in the company, what is the strategy that you're following with them, what is the specific proposal, and finally, who's the responsible for that lead. And why these type of tools are very useful for us? Because, for instance, if one day you're not at the office or you cannot follow up with someone else from your team can open that file and can know who he has to contact in order to follow up with that proposal. So it's actually for better teamwork and also to keep the organization organized. Good? So now we're going to go to the second part of the webinar and we're going to start talking about networking. So in this second part of the webinar, we're going to go through the networking concept and how basically you can do networking in different events. So first, let's go with the concept. According to this nice definition that I found on Wikipedia, but I think it's quite accurate, networking is a socio-economic business activity by which business people and entrepreneurs meet to form business relationships and to recognize, create, or act upon business opportunities, share information, and seek potential partners for ventures. I know we're not business people nor entrepreneurs, but I definitely think that when we are doing networking, it's because we want to create something greater. Because we need the funds, because we need the experts, but there's something that we can do together with the other party. Personally, the definition that I use for network and I like is that it's the art of bringing people together to fulfill each other's needs. So have that mindset when you're at networking events and always think that you're also benefiting the other party. It's not that you're just going there to receive the funds or the expertise. There's something in you that the other party is going to benefit by it as well. So why is so important networking? And this is one of the slides that I like. Because as you can see here, we have different doors and different colors. And networking is an opportunity that we have to get to different outcomes, to meet new people, to have a new approach to our cause or our work. And during a networking event, we can meet different type of people with different type of expertise. So now let's talk a little bit more about what do you do during a networking event. I've chosen this picture because I think it looks very similar to networking events in general. I don't know you, but the first time I had to go to a networking event, I was terrified. I was by myself, I didn't know anyone, I didn't know how to approach people, how to say, hi, my name is... It felt very weird and very uncomfortable for me. But there are some tips that I can give you, there are some tricks that you can do, and that's what I want to share with you in the next slides. So first of all, how do you work a room? What do you do once you get there? Firstly, what I would suggest is take your time, deep breath, and scan the room. Scan the room, why? Because you might know someone over there, and you also might want to talk to specific people, so it's good to know where those people are. Once that you have scanned the room, if it's your first time, I would recommend you just to approach people who are on their own as well. Why? Because they're the same as you, feeling a bit weird about talking to others, and it could be a good warm-up before getting to that person that you know you have to talk to. Another important kind of trick is that if you are going to groups of 2 people or 3 people, go for those groups which are open groups. It's going to be easier, it's going to feel more like normal, the flow is going to be better. But if you decide to go to a bigger group or a closed group, try to do it as long as there's someone there that you know. Why? Because that person will be able to introduce you, and it will make much more easier for you to get into that group and start talking. Finally, it's always important that if you leave any of the groups or any of the person you're talking to, you have to do it with respect and say, excuse me, I'm going to talk to someone else, or excuse me, I'm looking for a toilet, or I'm getting coffee. Give a reason why you're leaving the group, but just don't do it in silence. And no, it's good to approach the others and let them know that you're leaving. Good. So now for the final part of the webinar, we're going to talk about some do's and don'ts while you're doing networking or you're in a networking event. So first, and very important, introduce yourself. Say your name, say what's your organization. Briefly, but introduce yourself. Then ask for the name of the person you have in front and repeat it. Why? Because it's going to make the experience much more personal and much more fluid. So you say, my name is da-da-da, what's your name? Oh, nice to meet you, Linda. That's a very good exercise, and the person in front of you is going to feel more related to you. You're going to build rapport easier like that. Then it's always good to ask interesting questions, mainly for two reasons. People is going to be entertained by you, and also you're going to look smart, and that's something good that we all want. You have to ask for the questions and then listen carefully. Why do you want to listen carefully? Because you're getting information from the other part. So if you don't listen, you don't know if that person is someone that it's interesting for you to know, that's going to help your cause, that it's going to help you do what you're supposed to do there. And also people realize when you're not listening. Like if your looks are, I don't know, if your eyes are looking somewhere else, people will realize, and it's not nice. Once you have listened carefully, show them what you have to offer for them, how you can benefit from each other. Talk about the organization, but also show how your organization can benefit them. And that's the art of selling, that's the art of the networking, being interesting for the other party as well. Once you have done that and you think there's like a good rapport, there's a good opportunity, exchange contacts. And this is super important. If you go to a networking event, be prepared. Have with you your business card, or at least have with you a pen and paper if someone asks for your number or email. But mainly have business cards. It's very important. And if that happens and you're building rapport, ask them when you can call them. It's very good to set a timeline. Otherwise, it can be a bit lost and a bit lost the momentum. So if you feel that you have built like a good relationship, say, oh, by the way, I'm gonna send you a follow-up email, and I might be calling you next week around Tuesday. Is that good? Straight away, you realize if that person is actually interested or not in what you're offering, because a call is much more personal. So it's always good to say that. Now let's see what you don't want to do. Yeah. Okay. First, you don't want to monopolize the conversation. All of us, we have amazing stories to tell, but be very sure that the other person also wants to talk. So this is a conversation. It's like both parties interacting, both parties sharing experience, so don't monopolize the conversation. Then, don't try to sell your organization just for the sake of selling it. If you see that the other, like what you have to offer, you realize that the other person is not going to be benefited off or from, just like say, well, it was nice to meet you, I think we're in different areas, say something, but don't try to sell for selling, because it doesn't look good. Then, this is very important, try not to look anxious when you're talking to people. I know it's hard to control, that's why I always recommend, before getting into the room, have a deep breath, scan the situation, start warming up with only one person who is probably not your main focal point. But try not to look anxious, because you can transmit that to the other person and you can create a weird atmosphere. Then, don't ask closed questions. These mean yes, no questions. Why? We're trying to build a conversation. We're trying to build rapport here, and yes, no is like the easiest excuse for that person to say, no, thank you, I'm leaving. And then don't leave the event straight away. Why is this? Because you need some time to try to talk to people. It's not only a 2 minutes conversation, and I know sometimes networking events can look scary, but trust me, there's always something interesting, and there's always an opportunity out there. So even though that person that you might were looking for is not there, stay at least for 20 minutes and try to talk to someone else, because even if you don't meet someone, it was a good opportunity for you to keep improving into your networking skills. Finally, I know that I said that introduce yourself, but try to leave a good impression. Try to leave a memorable impression. There's a lot of people networking, and think about what we call your personal brand. What is that makes you different from the rest? In my case in particular, it would be that I have lived in 5 different countries in the last 5 years, and that I have built houses, around 52 houses by myself. That's something that is interesting, it's a funny fact, and will make people remember me. Okay, thank you very much for today. We have come to the end of our webinar. If you have any questions, you can contact me. My email is over there. And also, you can download this presentation over here.
Thank you very much, Valeria. This webinar is available online, and you can go back and listen to it as many times as you like. Should you wish to learn more, we have collected a number of resources for you to explore further. You can find them on our website, which is shown here. This is also where you can add any questions for the presenters or evaluate the webinars. Thank you for listening and have a safe day.